Namaste, viewers. My guest is Ruchir Bakshi, who has the amazing background as a Hindu living in the United States, served in the US Army on active duty in Afghanistan and Iraq, one of the boots on the ground. So it's an interesting story. Welcome, Ruchir.
Thank you, Rajivji. It's an honor to be talking with you today.
So, Ruchir, for our viewers, you would be kind of a real novelty, an unusual kind of person, because
Yes.
from what I understand, it's not a desk job; it's a actual combat role you had. So, tell us your story and how you end up in the army and what happened.
Well, briefly put, I moved to the U.S. in the 90s, in the early 90s, and then joined the Army in roughly around the mid-90s. And I was always interested in physical pursuits and, running and all that kind of stuff. So it kind of went well with that theme. And then, unfortunately, 9/11, 2001 happened. And as soon as it happened, I volunteered to deploy forward into the combat zones to see if there was anything I could do to help in the fight against terrorism. And that's how I ended up in Afghanistan first, and eventually, maybe a year and a half later, I was in Iraq as well. Right as the invasion began, I was sent to Iraq as well to do my mission.
Afghanistan, 1.5 years?
Afghanistan was a few months, maybe 6 months, and then I ended up going elsewhere that I'm not able to speak of right now. But mainly it was combat deployments were in Afghanistan and then Iraq for roughly a year. Yeah.
So somewhere else you went, but it's classified. Where
Yeah,
you
it was not. I was not sent back. Yeah.
What is your experience of the U.S. Army as a Hindu? Because you are a Hindu, right? You do
Yes, I am.
claim Hinduhood.
Yes, I am. I'm a very firm believer in Hinduism, and also the army at that time did not quite know what to make of me. So it just turned out that I was ignored, and which is fine in a way because it didn't attract any attention. I didn't have to deal with diffusing any issues that might have happened.
When you were ignored, it's not that your work was ignored, your identity was ignored.
No. It was. I was just another soldier doing my
Yeah.
work, and as long as the mission was done, it was fine. And
Okay.
I didn't get any opportunities to, go meet the chaplain, for example, because there was no possibility for me to do that. So it worked out as far as the mission went, and as far as personal attention, I didn't get any positive attention. Neither did I get any negative attention. So it was fine.
So the army treated you as another soldier. I mean, you do your job and that's it. And your faith is not anybody's business. Nobody wanting to ask you or have any
Exactly.
positive, negative view.
Yeah, exactly.
The PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yes, sir.
For viewers, tell us what is PTSD, why it's such a big deal, why the US Army has so much of it, and then your ability and your experiments and your attempts to cure or treat or manage PTSD with Vedanta. I think that will be an interesting story.
Okay. First of all, PTSD is it's not something that happens to 100% of people who are deployed or face traumatic experiences. It does happen to a certain percentage. Even today, as we speak, 22 military members a day are killing themselves, even in the U.S.
Even after they come back.
Even after they come back, yes.
Tell us when PTSD happens, what causes it, and what's the symptom?
PTSD happens, in my case, and every person is different, but in my case, it was a combination of dealing with pretty negative situations and pretty bad situations, and then having to do the mission at the same time. If I had reacted to each and every situation in a way that was appropriate, I would not have been able to do my mission. I would have been sent back because I would have failed. So in order to succeed at my mission, I had to compartmentalize. I had to kind of hide away the feelings, hide away the reactions that I would normally have. And then it became a habit of doing that. And I was numb. I mean, to the point where there were mortars falling around me, and I was walking as if it was a day in the park, since I had to do my mission. And it got to that point, and when I got back, all those repressed emotions and memories and experiences kind of came back in a way that was not appropriate to, in the civilian world especially. Nobody would understand what was happening, but it was kind of payback that if I had to shove all the emotions away, when they came back, they would take their toll. So that is, in my case, that was PTSD for me.
Is it a fair assumption a fair characterization that because of the trauma, because of the urgency, the risk, the fear, all those things that are happening, you have to block off your emotions and just be like a machine, do the job?
Exactly.
Yeah, so if you got to move something from here to there, then you just forget and block off what's happening, and you don't sort of think about it and get emotional and all that because you can't function. So exactly. Is that what it is?
Yeah, and especially in Iraq, where we were traveling without any, this was due to the mission, so I'm not blaming the Army, but we were traveling in civilian vehicles without any, armor or anything. So it was a kind of a moot point. Like if something happened, a bomb exploded, it wouldn't make any difference if I was afraid of the bomb or not. It would get me. So at that point, you just kind of block it off, say, whatever happens, happens, and you deal with it.
You have hundreds or thousands of these episodes which you block off, which you don't react the way
Exactly.
normally it would be.
Exactly.
So does PTSD come when you are back home, or can it start even while you are on duty?
Again, like I said, it's different for everyone. It was, to me, since I was so focused on getting the work done, I didn't have time for any way for my brain or my, to de-stress or to relax in a sense where I would have the opportunity to experience other things. So when I got back, and even after I got back, my parents, I wasn't married at the time, noticed that I was different, and that happens frequently when you go back and you come back from your deployments. You look different, you act different, and that's changed forever, as far as I can tell. But that after I got back, all the things got uncompartmentalized. Let's put it that way, and then I had to start dealing with everything that I was experiencing, feeling at that time.
So all those repressed and compartmentalized emotions come back, and then they.
Yes.
So is it,
in my case,
is it when you are sleeping? Is it trauma, dreaming, nightmares, or is it even during the daytime?
It could manifest as nightmares, although I fortunately didn't have that problem. My issues were more hypersensitivity to environment. Back in Arizona. This is when I was back in Arizona. And we were allowed to have guns openly. I used to have a 45 millimeter pistol at my nightstand and always with me, just because I felt safe, because I had that weapon. So that kind of a background is always there. And then going into malls or public places or any loud environments, I would completely be very uncomfortable, and I would just leave, because otherwise I would, something would happen which I hadn't any control over. So all those things kind of happened, and then I was seeking treatment medically, and it kind of faded away. And then it came back all of a sudden a couple of years ago when I witnessed something pretty horrible, an accident where I saw somebody get run over. And, this was in a parking lot, so it was not at speed, but I saw the entire thing. So it kind of opened up the can of worms again. So that's how I'm experiencing PTSD with it, in a different phase right now.
So what does the Army do to there must be thousands of people. I mean, are there statistics on what percent of the people in deployment get PTSD?
I do not have the statistics or the percentage, but I know it's not everyone, but it is a sizable number where people are openly saying things where they need to, and the VA is finally recognizing that this is a problem that needs to be looked at. But the army, in broader terms, the army trains you how to fight. It doesn't train you how to come back. So that is the issue. Yeah, because for example, when I came back, there was somebody who was out processing me or in processing me to where I was going, and they had one simple question: are you going to kill your wife when you go back home? And my answer was, I'm not even married. What do you mean? And that was the end of it. Literally, that was the end of it. And there was no, no doctor checking anything. It was just rubber stamping everything and making sure that I was done so that they could attend to somebody else.
When people are back from combat duty and if they complain of PTSD, what does the army do to treat them?
Now it's improved vastly, that I can tell. The VA is dealing with vast numbers of veterans who are, by the fact that we have been in Iraq for over 16, 17 years now. They're treating veterans with medicine, with group therapy, with peer therapy, and also one-on-one as therapy as needed. So it has improved a lot, and I have to say that, but it's still not an issue that people really feel comfortable talking about, and I wanted to change that. That's why part of the reason that's why I'm on here with you is to let people know that this exists and it's not something to be ashamed of.
Yeah, I was very happy when you wrote to me and approached us, and I'm so happy that you're here. So now tell us, how does Vedanta play a role in your management of PTSD?
I kind of talked about this a little bit. It happened recently where I thought everything was in the background and I was not experiencing any symptoms. Then I saw that accident I told you about, and at that time, PTSD came back or re-emerged and manifested itself in a different way this time, where I was having physical symptoms. I was shaking. Uncontrollably shaking, and it was not something I was actively thinking about, that I couldn't stop it. And there were other issues too, to the point where when it happened, I ended up calling the veteran suicide hotline, not because I was suicidal, but in order to get some kind of help somewhere. Cut a long story short, I ended up at the Chinmaya Mission through somebody's recommendation, a good family friends, and I had the fortunate circumstance where I was able to meet with the Swami Dhiranand on a one-on-one basis, and he initiated me into Vedanta and started to tell me how I should be thinking about these events and how I should be treating them, as opposed to reacting in a conventional manner and then just depending upon pills and medicine and therapy on its own.
It was partly discussion on philosophy.
Yes.
Meditation?
It was partly discussion on philosophy, meditation. I attend the mission every week.
Okay.
I still go, and I plan on I plan to keep on doing it. So it is a discussion of the Gita, the discussion of the philosophy behind all the statements, all the shlokas in the Bhagavad Gita, for example, and what it means in our lives today. So for example, I think it's a very famous or a famous shloka, chapter 2, verse 47. Karmani eva adhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. So that part where it says you are responsible for your actions, and not, you're not looking for fruits. You're not looking for any benefit out of it. And you're not worried about if it's a good thing or a bad thing. You just do it because it is your duty to do so. That part was really beneficial as far as a starting point for me, where I could look back at the things that had happened and realize that I was doing my duty. I was doing the actions that I was supposed to do. And when things happened as a result of my being there and doing those were happening to somebody else. And it sounds a little cold, a little detached, but it's not. It was, logically speaking, it was happening to someone else. I was fortunate to be in a position where I was able to observe it as opposed to experience it. And so when things are happening around me, I should be more cognizant of where it is affecting me. Is it affecting my emotions, and am I being overrun by my own emotions when I don't need to be?
So in Vedanta, the whole practice of witnessing, sakshi bhav.
Yes.
Witnessing.
Yes.
Kind of, you can let go of the intensity of emotion, reactivity. You can be less reactive.
Yes.
And more
indeed.
witnessing, more sakshi. And that
Yes,
helps you de-traumatize.
Yes, it does. And I at first I was confused, and I even asked Swamiji that, well, if I'm detached, how am I supposed to show empathy? How am I supposed to, show my love or wish well?
Or do my job.
Yeah, or do my job.
Yeah.
So his response at the time, I didn't understand it, was something like, you show empathy because you're still a human being. You show empathy at the same time. You're not linking yourself to the emotions that you're showing. You are, again, observing it, and you're aiming for a higher goal where you can eventually be that person who doesn't change with everything that happens around you.
So observing without the ego being a stakeholder.
Exactly.
And in this mode being able to act.
Exactly.
Without the sense without the doership.
Exactly. Without the sense of doership or ownership or, like I was in it, even though you were in it physically, you were spiritually not supposed to be reacting to that.
Right.
At that time, I didn't have that knowledge, unfortunately, but...
and even letting one's body be an instrument that's performing its job.
Exactly. And it kind of ties back into the same concept where you're doing your duty, do it well, and do it as you were supposed to, with full intensity, but at the same time, you stay away from getting too involved where you're personally becoming useless to people around you.
What's particularly impressive, I want the viewers to notice, is that the Bhagavad Gita is revealed to Arjun also in the battlefild. And so for you also, this is your Gita, and you're playing that role. You are in the battlefield, being told that you have to do your job, but you're not a stakeholder in terms of the outcome, and not even ultimately the doer.
Yes.
So
indeed.
So that's very wonderful that you not only you had that opportunity, but you also took advantage of that opportunity to perform as per the Gita would teach.
Yes, and I went about it the wrong way, I think, personally speaking, but it's being fixed now. And fortunately, I have the ability to fix it still. And that is not a chance that, I've lost colleagues to suicide when the previous day I met them and they were full of joy and happy. And the next day I learned that they were gone. So I wish that more people had this opportunity to kind of look back and disentangle themselves from their past in a sense where, in a positive way.
Yeah. Swamiji in the DC area who's helped you, I've known him for a very long time.
Yes.
And they've invited me many times to give talks. I've launched some of my books. I'm very close to him. We have many videos on my channel where he and I are discussing, and he's, introducing me, and I'm giving some talks and answering questions and so on. So yes. I'm so happy and I'm so proud for Chinmaya Mission to do this. It's an amazing organization. I was personally one of the persons who initiated me as a young boy was Swami Chinmayanand in Delhi.
Wow.
And my parents and we knew him for a long time. So I'm fully supportive of that organization.
Yes,
and
it is a great organization indeed. Yeah.
Yeah, so wonderful. So all you viewers, respect our gurus, respect our traditions. Here is a living example of Arjun in the battlefield taking advantage of these teachings of the Gita to help himself and be a good soldier for the US Army as his Swadharma. That is your Swadharma.
And it is the way you put it, it sounds, I'm just a simple man. I don't think I would come close to Arjun in the qualities that he had. But at the same time, the concept is the same. And like I said, I'm very appreciative of the mission and of the ability to affect change in my life in a way that roots out the problem as opposed to just treat the symptoms.
Yeah. See, every one of us is an ordinary person, and we have to do in our own context, in our own lives, we have to do what the teaching says. And it is not a teaching meant only for some great guy, it's meant for all of us.
That's true.
So,
that is true.
So you're doing that, and I'm very proud of your doing it. And thank you for a great service to the United States Army, and being a student of looking towards Bhagavad Gita as for answers, finding those answers, implementing them in your life, and then coming here to tell your story. This is wonderful.
I appreciate the opportunity, sir, and I will continue. This is only the beginning of my journey, so I will continue down the road and hopefully get better, not just at the knowledge of Vedanta and the Bhagavad Gita, but also in helping others eventually, if I can. I do want to start helping others as well.
And we'll stay in touch.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and I'd love to.
Yes. Thank you very much. Namaste.
Thank you. Namaste. Thank you.
Thank you for watching. You can subscribe here and also hit the bell icon to make sure you get notified. To donate, please click this button.